Watch Who?
Hello.
And welcome to To Watch Who, a Doctor Who podcast. I'm Mark.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm a Doctor Who fan.
And I'm new to watching Who.
Watching for the very first time.
Very first time. I didn't know if I was going to come out. As I was about to then, I was like, I've got some hot cross bun in my mouth.
Well, yes, here we are. We're having tea and hot cross buns, apparently, in Professor Chronotus's study.
Yeah.
Surrounded by many books. It's quite cosy in here, isn't it?
Sure.
TARDIS is in the corner.
Doesn't stick out at all.
Oh, well, you're probably having hot chocolate, aren't you? You don't have tea,
I don't have tea,
so.
but yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah,
So it's taken a bit longer for him to make.
And, yeah, we're talking about Shada this week. Oh, is that a knock at the door? I think it is.
This is a shit I have to put up with all the time.
Hello. I hear that a room's gone missing.
Oh, hello. Hi, James. Come on in.
As you can see, the room is still here.
Yeah, we're back now. Hello.
You've been on a long journey, have you? You've been all the way to Shada, I hear.
Oh, we've been all over the place. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll edit that together.
This is what I've come for. I'm a long-term fan of this podcast, and I've come for the chaos that ensues.
Okay, let's talk about it. Let's get into it. Sorry, I just took a bite of hot cross bun.
Okay. Well, before we start, I just wanted to ask James. You're obviously a Doctor Who fan. How long have you been a fan? Was it the new series or?
Oh, it was the new series. I think I'd probably seen, without knowing I'd seen them, some of the Cushing films. But then my clearest memory of starting was it was probably David Tennant, although I do have a really vague memory of seeing the Emperor Dalek from the Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways. I remember that is the image that is seared in my brain. But then I think I probably saw Christmas Invasion, and then it was I saw the first episode of David Tennant's first series and got terrified because of all the illness that was going around. I was like, I'm not watching that. I was in my parents' bedroom. I think I was like, no, this isn't for me. And then I came back. Came back for 2 things.
So I think I remember you being a Doctor Who fan.
Yeah. I think people out there, Sarah and I, have some levels of connection.
Oh yeah, I've mentioned that.
Let's get into it, Mark. Mark never.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
I think if my dad was in the building, he'd pop in and say hello, but he's out.
So I know James because I'm from Lancashire and I sang at the cathedral, which I think I've mentioned before.
You had the Abbott story from your...
Yes, I mentioned. Do you know what I'm thinking today? I was like, I'm sure I told the Abbott story on the podcast. So yeah, I was at Blackburn Cathedral and James's dad was the music director at Blackburn Cathedral. So...
Yeah, I don't sound like I grew up in Lancashire anymore.
Well, I don't think I do as well. I get told all the time I don't sound like I'm from Lancashire anymore.
Being at uni, it makes me increasingly more sad that I don't sound
that's what happens, yeah. There's this gap of 10 years more. I was saying to Mark, I was about 19, I think, when I left Blackburn. I haven't really seen James since. So to me, you're 10 because that's the last time I saw you.
I think I saw you in Cardiff.
Yes, I did see you in Cardiff. You came to Cardiff to the Doctor Who exhibition.
Yeah, it was like every couple of years we'd go, and I saw you, we were in the Novotel.
Yes, yeah.
And you came and you told me about your boyfriend who'd been in the 50th or something.
Yes, like that. Yes. But in my head, you're still that. And then you started listening to this, and I know that because your dad texted me going, I can hear you from my son's bedroom. And then you met Mark, and I said to Mark, I was like, it's going to be so funny because you've met James now as an adult and who can legally drink, and when I last saw you, you still couldn't legally drink. So that's the connections of time that we've got going on in this space. And actually, you'll have more in common with Mark, even though I've known you for longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so James, I saw you at it was the Abominable Snowman.
Yeah,
wasn't
Pad,
it?
Yeah, the special edition Pad.
Yeah, reimagined Pad. much different than the Telesnap version. So when did you watch classic Doctor Who?
Oh, I think the first one I saw was either The Invisible Enemy.
Oh God, yeah.
Because I think my grandpa got me the K9 box set, which came with K9 and Company. It was either that or it was Genesis. It was one of those two, maybe at the same time. And I was like, yeah, this is good. And then a few years later, my singing teacher, I don't know how much truth there is in it, but he had apparently worked with John Pertwee in the past. And through that, I was like, I'm going to watch every John Pertwee story. and in a summer, I watched every John Pertwee story, like going through the night, just watching them till like 3 a.m. till I fell asleep and picked up again at 5. And then after that was done, I picked up Wurzel Gummidge and watched all of Wurzel Gummidge just on a John Pertwee kick. And then I think I was 12, 13 when I did that. I think I'd seen Remembrance as well. And then after that, I thought, maybe now's the best time to do the whole thing. And I went from the start. And
like we've been doing.
Yeah, over the course of a year, I was 14 when I did it. And I watched the whole of the classic series.
Oh my gosh.
And then the only time I've ever attempted something
That's my
similar.
worst nightmare.
Yeah. for me, it comes around in like every 5 years I decide to do it. Because then I did it again when the Twitch stream happened in 2018. I was following that when I could. It was around the time of my A-levels as well. So I was like, when I wasn't revising, I was watching the Twitch marathon. And then I lived in France for 5 months and I was watching things when I wasn't working in France. And then in the last year and a half, I'm a student, and when I'm not at uni, I'm forcing my flatmate to watch classic Doctor Who.
Sounds like Mark.
Yeah, we are essentially doing what you've done. I've because we live together, we've been a bit faster. We've just watched Mind Warp.
Okay. That doesn't mean anything to Sarah.
No, it doesn't mean anything to Sarah yet. But I'm looking forward to the day it does.
Soon. Not too far.
Everything feels like not too far, to be honest.
Well, Sarah, it's pretty much 3 years this podcast has been going.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember when I picked it up, following you, I think my dad had seen you were calling out for people who had no interest in Doctor Who. Like, we need people to come on the podcast who don't know anything. And my dad was like, oh, Sarah does a podcast. I was like, oh, nice. And I just started listening to every episode on my runs. I'd be running and I'd be listening, and it was still lockdown, so I was listening to those. Yeah.
I mean, we started it. We're in March now, so we officially launched in March, but we started the January of 2020. It's interesting talking to people about Doctor Who, I think, just generally. And I think back to those early ones. Actually, those first few stories, that first season, my favourite stories in that first season.
Keys of Marinus.
Keys of Marinus.
Everyone knows it's the Keys of Marinus.
Keys of Marinus. And
I left my Ian Chesterton upstairs. I was going to have him with me.
Although he's not my favourite Doctor, that first season's so good.
I mean, that first season, as those first couple of seasons are really interesting because it's sort of not the Doctor's story, it's Ian and Barbara's story.
It is. And it's so different. And it's so, I mean, what it becomes is what it becomes. Like, and if even now when we go back and I go, but compare it to this and compare it to that.
I find when I'm watching
there's something quite wholesome about it as well. That wholesome first Doctor is the one that took you. I don't know. I always find it interesting when people not Peter. We've just talked about that one. Who? Not Patrick Troughton. John Pertwee. Is he your favourite Doctor?
I don't like to pick. I don't think it's. Honestly, I often find I think is unfair to certain actors when they say, "This one's my favourite," because it's always going to be like Colin Baker comes towards the bottom or something like that. I'm like, I actually really like Colin Baker, and Colin Baker's great. And some people say, "Oh, Peter Davison," but I'm like, Peter Davison's pretty good. It's like when I'm watching a Doctor, I'm like, this person's my favourite Doctor at the moment, and I can watch any Doctor at any time. David Tennant is the one I grew up with. he's the one who I started with pretty much. And so I'll always have a special place in my heart for David Tennant whenever he comes back. The many times more he's going to come back. How many times is he going to come back?
Come more to come.
I'm waiting for him to be 90 years old and coming back. And when I'm doing a marathon of a Doctor, I'm like, when it comes to the end of their time, doesn't matter which one it is, I'm heartbroken. I find that it's really difficult to be like, and even when Companion's gone, I find it very sad.
I mean, I've only done 3 transitions so far because we're in our 4th. But I sort of feel it coming. I'm always a bit like, okay, yeah, I'm feeling it.
Oh, but my favourite part is that you don't know what's coming up. That's why I'm trying to keep you like spoiler-free for when people leave or come in.
I'm going to be I'm going to be holding myself back.
Oh, you'll have to, James, because they'll tell you. They will tell you. They'll be in touch.
They don't know where to find me. They'll find me in the Student Union of Goldsmiths, University of London. They'll be like, you! What have you done? There's no Doctor Who society there. I checked.
Well, before we get in, just a quick shout out. So, listener Sarah got in touch from Spain.
Hi.
She has been listening along. She is watching all the way through. She's only up to like season 5 at the moment.
Yeah.
But she's saying she's really enjoying it and she's watching through in order and she's not seen Classic before. And her favourite story so far is the Sensorites. So
yes. I didn't know the Sensorites was an interesting one, wasn't it? We had a lot to say about it. But yeah, okay.
And also just say hello to listener Andy as well, who was at the BFIC Devils that I had a chat to, and he listens
Andy
every week as well. So
I'm also going to say hi, even though you don't know who I am.
So hello to everybody. But yeah, let's talk about today's story, Shada. Okay, Shada. So I did explain to Sarah briefly last week about this story not ever being broadcast at the time.
Yeah, which now I've watched it, I get why they made it.
Well, they did make quite a bit of it. They did all the locations.
I get why they added in the animation because I think I did this in. Oh, what did I do this in?
On BritBox, it's the movie version.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which version did you watch?
So I thought I was going to watch the episode version, but I accidentally watched the movie version because on the Blu-ray there's like the VHS version and there's the episode version and the movie version, and I put the wrong disc in.
We've done that before. When we used to watch Forever, you've done that before.
But this is the point. There's so many different versions of Shada. So it first came out on VHS in 1992. So it was all the studio stuff, and then just Tom Baker just saying in between what happened.
With his massive Shada.
Yeah, he does a really great intro, which is worth watching.
Okay.
So it came out there, and then there was an audio version of it, which came out with the 8th Doctor, but it still had Romana and K9, and they sort of remade it because Tom Baker wasn't doing stuff there.
I think that's how I first experienced it.
Yeah, so I always thought of it as an 8th Doctor story for a long time, and then it came out on Blu-ray and DVD as this movie version with the new animation and everything. So they've got quite a lot of, whoever's still around, some of the original actors to voice it again. And then on the Blu-ray, it's the first time it's actually the animated version in episodes. But then there was also another version, a fan version.
The Ian Levine version.
The Ian Levine version. So, Sarah, I won't go into too much, but basically Ian Levine is like a super mega fan.
Yeah.
And he's
like
actually
Neighbours guy, but for Doctor Who.
Like Mr. Neighbours.
Well, sort of, yeah. But he's been a fan since the beginning, and he rescued a lot of the 60s episodes from the archives and stuff.
It is not unreasonable to find episodes that are 8 or 9 years old. It is not unreasonable to think you'll turn them up. It is completely unreasonable now, in 1998, to think that Marco Polo, that was shown in 1964, which is 34 years ago, it is completely unreasonable to think that things like that, if they were going to turn up, they would have turned up. We would have found them.
And also, he's a record producer and has got lots of money. So he makes these fan films, and he's employed actors and doctors and stuff just for fan, but he can't release it because it's all BBC
His Mission to
copyright.
the Unknown
So
is
literally,
really good.
he's animated missing episodes himself just for himself, Anyway, so he did a version of Shada, which is never going to be released. It's his version. He employed some of the original actors.
That's
got
like
an
Taylor
animation
Swift's
team.
version, but his
Yeah,
version.
it's sort of Ian Levine's version is like Ian Levine's like the Taylor Swift of Doctor Who.
Amazing.
Not at all. No, not at all.
But yes, and yes, that's how I understand it in my head.
Well, I was
Ian's
trying to think
version.
of who Ian Levine would be, who I could describe him as. I was going to say he's not like the Elon Musk of Doctor Who. Is he? I don't know. I couldn't think of anyone else to compare him to. Anyway,
Some
and he
dark,
also
shadowy figure.
But this version is the definitive version, I think. This is finally it got finished after all those attempts.
Like, there was so much. I was surprised. I was expecting to be bits of it, kind of like when we did missing episodes, like little bits of it and then chunks of not. And I did struggle initially with the transitions because it's been a while. So I was like going from like something on screen to then the style that it's done in as well. And I was like, oh, let me just rework out who all these people, and the voices, because they're older, are slightly different as well. So I was like, let me just give me a minute just to work all this out. But there was way more stuff that existed than didn't. Once I'd like got over that hump of the animation real stuff, like, you know, I was fine with that, and I actually really enjoyed it, and I thought it worked really well.
I was a bit wary when they announced it. It would be like half animation and half. I was thinking, well, why haven't they? Could they just animate the whole thing? Is that going to be really weird? And you have that first transition. They do it quite well when they go sort of up to the sky and back down again. And then, like halfway through, you just don't notice it.
Yeah.
Oh, I should also. It came out as a book as well a few years ago.
Yeah.
So it has had everything.
Every form of treatment it can have.
I mean, that was a great series of books. Like that's the one I haven't read, the Shada one, but all the other ones. I mean, and they even did books of the unmade Adams stories, like the Cricket Men, which like this story, like bits of the unmade stories get. Douglas Adams was like, I'm not wasting a good idea. I'm going to put them in my books. So if you read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, some of that stuff's in there. With this story, stuff with Professor Chronotis goes into Dirk Gently's detective agency. It's really enterprising of Adams to just take things and like, yeah, these are good ideas.
And I think because it's a Douglas Adams story as well, that's got even more sort of reputation behind it, I think. Yeah, it's just a shame that they just never got to finish it. Because, yeah, they filmed all the location stuff and the first block of studio, and then they had 2 more blocks of studio to go, and then it was just strikes, electrician strikes and stuff. But
it's so interesting. I genuinely was expecting it to be, and it was initially, but you do sort of forget. And also, I think what helps is the story carries so well. Like, it's such a strong story. I genuinely wanted to see where it would go and how it would evolve. The acting on the bits that are filmed is great, and that always helps because animation can only do so much, you know. But I found it all really strong. I think this will be quite a fun one to talk about.
Well, shall I just start going through the story notes, and we will just discuss as we go? So we start off in space, and we see Skagra escaping. And okay, that first scene, the thing that lets it down is the really bad extras.
Yes, they're awful. They're so bad.
In their scene.
When they're all like, I was like, what? Oh, come on, guys.
Skagra saves it by looking absolutely fabulous.
He does. Skagra is like, but he looks right into the camera as well. He gets up and he like zones into that camera. And I was like, okay, here we go.
He knows exactly how to play this script in this show.
He's brilliant. He definitely saves that opening scene because you're like, oh, is this another Horns of Nimon style studio bound thing?
I thought that it was going to be, what's it called? When the side characters are so, forget it. I just scrap it. I can't remember what that was going at all. I've no clue.
What? The thing that stands out to me when it started was the music. To be honest, because it's Mark Ayres, isn't it? It's who's done this, because it's not Dudley Simpson. It's like it's in the style of Dudley Simpson, but it's Mark Ayres.
Redone the
whole score
sort of redone the music.
Is fine,
because they never recorded
because
it.
for the Tom Baker interlinked version from the 90s, that was they got Kev McCulloch from like the McCoy era to do the score. And then for this one, Marquez just really leans into the Dudley Simpson of it all. And the whole thing is dedicated to Dudley Simpson. It says at the end, it's because he died in 2017. They dedicate the story to him. And it just really stood out to me. The music, I mean, all through the story.
We've talked about music before. And when the music's good, you almost forget it's there because it just leads the story so well. And there were so many times in this where I was just watching things and I just thought, God, do you know what? That music is, I almost forgot. I was just so engrossed in what was happening. It really led the story. And then other times it's the most noticeable thing in the world because it's so shit. So this was not one of those. Like, I really liked the music throughout.
What did you guys say about the City of Death? Did you talk about the music for City of Death? Because it's
very similar to that, the Paris one.
Yeah, it's.
Oh yeah.
I
was waiting for that, Mark.
Really similar.
Sorry, I have to just give some description so Sarah knows what we're talking about.
The way I think about it, City of Love, City of Death, because that's Dudley Simpson as well, and then even the small leitmotifs, like I don't know if because Sarah, you've got a music background. That I've only started recently in my recent watch, like picking up on the leitmotifs that appear all through the Dudley Simpson scored stories, and Marquez really lifts those little, like the Doctor has a little leitmotif that I cannot hum now because I do not remember it. When I hear it in the score, I'm like, it's the Doctor's leitmotif. It's absolutely amazing to hear the score here. It really brings the story to life for me, especially in the animated sequences. And at the start, it sort of, thinking about the music sort of distracted me from the extra sort of wobbling around.
So I'll tell you what, though, I've just remembered what I was going to say before. I actually thought the start was something that they'd filmed and added on, because obviously I don't know. I thought that, like, because it just seemed too crisp. And the set looked a bit too good for what we've had recently. And I just thought, why, if they've gone to all the trouble of filming this, have they got such shit people? And then obviously, because I don't know at the start if he's the bad guy. Like, I just presume he's some guy that's got up, zoomed into this, and then you realise, okay, this guy is like owning it, and like,
he is the bad guy because he's got that scar thing.
Well, I know. I genuinely had a moment of like, have they just filmed this to like add on? Like, because I hadn't worked. I knew you said they'd added things in, and I was expecting animation, but in my head I was like, it's just some shit like 30-second intro thing that they've built into it to be like, oh yeah, and only because the actors were so shit, the side characters. When we see the ones later, and I'm like, they cannot be the same people. That
Yeah,
so much better as old men than they were young dying men.
Well, one of them are they the same people?
Wait, oh no, I don't think they are the same people.
Okay. Well, one of the old. Are you going to say who one of the old guys are?
Yes.
One of the old guys.
One of the old men, the main old man who talks to them, appears in the Web of Fear.
Oh God.
As
Yeti Underground.
Yeti Underground. He is.
Yeah.
He is Mr. Welsh Driver. I'm just.
Oh no way! I loved him.
Yeah.
Welsh Driver did it. Remember the
Welsh Driver.
The Welsh one.
Oh, I'm only a driver, you see, staff. I'm really annoying all the Welsh people listening to this.
I mean, but it's a shame he's only got one scene in this.
Yeah.
I mean,
So good in this.
He could
Why
have
did
gone off
he
with
redeem himself,
Parsons.
Mark?
well,
he makes the Web of Fear for me.
He's brilliant. I had a lot of time for him. Mark hated him. Stop hating on the Welsh stuff.
but yeah, I think the model shots have been done new for all of this.
Yeah, it's
because that opening model shot looks really good.
Mike Tucker work.
Yeah. So he's done a lot of he does the 80s model stuff, so he's come back to do it. And then we're in Cambridge.
Yeah.
In the 70s, looking amazing with Chris Parsons going around on his bike. All the bikes in Cambridge. Oh, it's really good.
It looks great. And actually it was quite nice to be. We haven't had anything like that in terms of, it's nice not to be in a dump or a mill or like A location shot that's just a bit prettier. That sort of sums up this season a little. We've had Paris, now we've got Cambridge, you know?
Yeah, Paris, Cambridge, Nymon Planet. You know, the three who's, the three locations.
We were stuck in studio all last time, weren't we? So
Yeah.
it's nice to have all of that. And I love Cambridge. I guess we've all been to Cambridge and
I've not actually.
recognise. You've never what?
No, I've been to Oxford. I've been to Oxford a few times, but I've not been to Cambridge.
You've got to do what I did last summer and go around Cambridge and specifically look for all the locations from
That's
this
what Mark
story.
makes me do when we go places.
Oh, it's brilliant because it hasn't changed at all.
No,
You can you recognise all those streets and everything because it's outside the college. Because I went there, been there a few times. I went because Charles Darwin studied there. I think you can go to his room.
You're going to say that like you'd been to some sort of Charles Darwin lecture or something like, where's this going?
No, but there's a
You've
nice
met
statue
Charles
of him.
Darwin?
Well, I met a statue of him, and I went to his bedroom and I had to look round. But there's a lot of Charles Darwin stuff around there.
Okay.
That springs to mind when I think of Cambridge. And okay, well we'll see the Doctor and Romana punting in a minute. So we'll talk about punting. Have you ever been punting?
I've never
or tried
punted.
punting?
Never.
So because of Shada, obviously seeing that scene when I went to Cambridge, obviously I wanted to try punting because it looks amazing and it looks really easy. It's not as easy as it looks.
The Doctor makes
at
it
all.
look very easy. So either he's been dragged along or he's a punting pro.
I watched the making of after I watched the show, and they said Tom just couldn't do it. And so it's really deceptive. Is they're saying Tom was terrible at punting.
Because he makes it look so easy. I thought he was like on an Italian gondolier, just like going along. He like nails it. So well done editing / the person pulling it along is what I'll say to that.
No, because it's really difficult because you get the pole thing, and the first shock was that it's really heavy. It's much heavier than you think. And then when you're standing up and you've got to try and balance, and the next thing is, it's really deep. The river's really deep. So I'm pushing the pole down and it's going down, 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 down. I'm like, where's the bottom of the river? So and then trying to like drag it up again because it's really heavy. And you've got everybody else going around you and everything. It does not look like it does on Shada. I'll tell you.
I'm going to do that with you sometime, Mark.
I'd like to try again. Now I've got over the shock of how heavy it is and how difficult it is. I think I'd be more prepared.
I'm going to be
but in my mind,
just led there doing fuck all, not helping in any way, and maybe criticising if anything.
When I was watching it, I felt. How did you feel about Tom's dialogue when he was talking about the punt? He was talking about the stick and pushing the stick into the water, and the way it was lingering. It was lingering on Lala. I don't know how much you know about Tom and Lala.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, I mentioned it. I think they're probably obviously going out.
Well,
at this
to be fair,
point,
I was only looking out because that's the first scene, and Mark mentioned last episode, which isn't out yet, that they there's episodes coming up where they don't even look at each other. So I thought, was this it? And
Yes. I mean, there was something, the way he was describing punting.
There's the water, the punt, a strong pair of hands, and a pole.
To me, it sounded so sexual.
But I think he like loves things like that. There was something later on, and I thought, that's Tom Baker. That's not the script.
There was just some sort of like animal magnetism there going on. It's like the outside world bleeding into the characters.
Yeah.
The Fourth Doctor and Romana were definitely. There was stuff going on there behind the scenes. They were at it. They were at it. I think they were traveling for hundreds of years together, and we only saw a fraction of their stories, and they were at it.
Yeah, in the studio scenes as well, I think they're getting on very well. They've got that dynamic there.
Yeah, when I started, I was like, okay, this isn't one.
No, I'll point it out when it gets fraught, but they're still very much honeymoon phase at the moment. I think.
Cambridge on a boat, of course they are. They're having a great time.
They've had Paris, they've had Cambridge.
Yeah, no wonder they fell in love.
And then we see Professor Chronotis in his study, and that's a great opening because the TARDIS is already in the background, so you're already like, what's happening? What's going on? And Professor Chronotis is a brilliant character.
I loved. It took me a while sort of to work out that he was a Time Lord, like all that. I really liked him. I liked his introduction. I liked he seemed like some sort of bumbling professor.
He seems alien in his scattiness, like in a way. It sort of makes me think, are all university professors that alien? I think some of mine are.
He very much felt no threat, which is why, I mean, we're jumping, but when later on, initially when he did something, he said something to her, and it was only later on I thought, oh, it's him. But it's so nice for so long to not have that. And he really felt like no threat, considering he's supposed to be in this prison somewhere, and locked away and all that.
Well, it's this idea, I mean, jumping right to the end of the story, the Fourth Doctor even says, like, Time Lords exaggerate everything. He was probably very 60s. He was probably like floating about everywhere, like, oh, peace and love, guys. And he was probably like that, and the Time Lords were all stuffy, like, let's put this guy in prison. That's probably what it was like.
I love that, because I didn't see it coming, and it was just, it was a great little addition that was done so well, because sometimes that could not be well. Sometimes it can be shit.
The way it's plotted out throughout, you only get bits of it, and like he dies in like episode 2 or whatever, and you don't know if he's going to come back, and then you find out he's a Time Lord, and then you find out later on, and then the room is a TARDIS. I like how it keeps changing. You don't get that all at once, and I like just the opening where the TARDIS is in the background. It's just a nice way. It's not your usual way of TARDIS land. They get out. There's always, you sort of on the back foot a little bit to begin with.
Yeah.
That's a really good way of sort of plotting the story. And then you've got Skagra walking around, looking over the bridge
with his hat.
Now we have to do clothes watch. We have to do clothes watch on this.
His cape, his hat.
And then there's nobody in the background looking at him going, what is he wearing? What is going on? Everybody's just carrying on as normal.
People wear weird things all the time, okay?
I do every day.
With his carpet bag as
like
well.
That if I could.
But that's a very Doctor Who thing. Alien with this, deadly sphere thing in a carpet bag.
I love the scene, and we are really jumping here, but I love the scene where you had like the barbershop group all singing.
Yes.
The Doctor zooms past and a ball, and no one's phased. Everyone's just like, that's life, and carries on singing. I love. How would you not miss this giant ball in the sky that's like zooming along? Why would you not be like, oh, that's a bit weird? But no, they're so in the moment with their singing. They're just like, I loved it.
They're living life. Do you know how that happened?
No, go on.
There was this story, like, it wasn't just the studio where they had industrial action problems. It was while they were on location as well. And there was, like, the confrontation with Skagra and the Doctor on the bridge was supposed to be a night shoot. And the lighting crew, they were called back or something, or the union leader was, like, they called them in. And they said, okay, we're going to have to remount this in the day. And the director, Pennant Roberts, and the production manager were in the pub, and they were like trying to plan what they were going to do, and like, oh god, this story's going to die. And they're like, okay, we'll do it. We'll just have to do it in the daytime. And one of the students at the bar was like, can we be in it? And they're like, they were probably pissed, and they're like, yeah, go on. And then the next day they turned up and were like, we're here, and they were like, what? They were like, you said we could be in. I'm like, oh, okay. And that's how the barbershop group were in it. The acapella singers. It was amazing.
It's such a cool scene. It's such a cool addition, and it kind of feels like it's
very Cambridge
in a way. Yeah, it really is. It's really like, I don't know. It just feels very cultural in a way.
This just reminded me, the only other time I've seen that on TV outside King's College with the choir singing,
I thought you were going to say Neighbours,
was on BBC, A Morning with Neighbours, live from King's College.
Goodness.
And it was Dale Winton presenting, and they were singing the Neighbours theme tune in that sort of style.
Neighbours, everybody needs good neighbours, with a little understanding, you can find the perfect neighbour.
Live, it was like, was it celebrating maybe 20 years of Neighbours or something? I've got it on video somewhere, but it was very that's the only other time I've seen Cambridge on TV so much was A Morning with Neighbours.
Of course.
It was very Shada.
Love Mark. Sometimes I'm like, we are a Doctor Who Neighbours crossover.
I started watching some Neighbours because Mark was talking about it.
There we go. Job done.
We've talked about whether we could watch some episodes of Neighbours. We have had that. We've recently had that discussion.
People ask about Neighbours, guys. Do you want an update while we're here? While we're just here, we're just we haven't really got into Shada properly yet. But I'm gonna read live what the messages say now because
now you've read them. So I don't know if this is out yet, James. But a few episodes ago, Mark never opens the messages. He just leaves them going, and so he decided to open them and read them live.
So here we go. So now I've got. I'm guessing you don't want 1986 to 2000. And then he's put 10 out of 10. Scart, you can't get better than that. What does that mean? And then he's put, happy to send you an episode to see what you're missing out. There we go.
No. You missed a bit, which you sent me, which is about Amazon. That it was the next day. And that's my favourite part. And I don't know why we've not talked about it yet.
Oh, he's put, I have Amazon's episodes if you want to trade. As if he's like, they're on Amazon.
How can you trade?
I was like, yeah, I've got Amazon. I've got Amazon as well. I can watch.
I think that the rights to make Neighbours need to be taken from Amazon. Go to Disney so they can make a Doctor Who Neighbours crossover just for you.
Oh my gosh, I genuinely believe that when he found out it was going to be back on Amazon, that he sent them messages every day like this, like he does to Mark, and that is why the episodes are now on Prime.
It's actually been me the whole time.
Imagine. We have to mention the Keys of Marinus, tick, and we have to bring up Neighbours, Guy, tick.
Done and done.
This story, it's a 6-part story, and sometimes we find them to drag a little bit, but I like how that first episode is quite relaxed. I could just watch scenes of them in the study, just chatting, having tea with Chrono. It's just all day. It's just really nice and relaxing. The story's there. You've got in the background. You've got Skagra sort of skulking around and these voices. But it's just really nice just to watch them just sitting having tea and having a chat to
It's
him.
the moment where Skagra turns up at the university and he doesn't look at, what's his name, Wilkie? He doesn't look at him. He just goes, you! he's looking out. He just goes, you!
That's so rude.
He's great though. I mean, like as far as villains go, he's definitely going to bid for an Oscar because he is so strong in the film scenes. He's so sometimes it can feel panto when they're a villain. He's on that line of panto villain to and he does it so well because it's so easy to just play villain as panto villain. He gives it a real I
thought he played it really well, considering he's in that outfit to begin with. He plays it brilliantly. He's like, right, I'm just wearing this. I've been given this to wear, but I'm gonna play it like a proper villain.
Side angle. It's like a unitard, isn't it? With then
but then he does, yeah. So I'm glad he does change his clothes.
5 minutes.
And actually, there's that bit where he goes. It's in Cambridge, and I looked it up because there was a camera shop. Sarah,
oh, okay.
There's a camera shop.
Yeah.
And then there's the clothes shop that side, and I thought, I wonder if that's still there. So I Google Maps. That is still a camera shop to this day.
When I went to Cambridge last summer, I went and took a photo there because I just take a photo at every location, just trying to line up the shots. And I remember it being a camera shot.
Yeah, they're both. It's exactly the same. It has not changed.
What I find
trip
about Skagra when he's like, oh, I think you can help me. He gets in the car with the guy. They drive off. How stupid is Skagra? He almost causes a car accident because he uses the sphere on him in the car. The car stops. It's like, they could have had a crash there. What, you couldn't wait until you got to where you were going before you attacked the guy? It's dramatic, but it's also not intelligent.
Maybe he put the bag on the back seat and the ball fell out and just decided to ball him.
The carpet bag.
I mean, the ball, I guess, does have a mind of its own. The ball must have a mind of its own because it attacks several random people.
Yeah.
It knocks over that woman.
Yeah.
She's doing a shopping. Yeah. Did you notice? She's proper going.
I really want to know if that was intentional or not. That's the one thing in my research that I missed. Was that intentional on the day? And then the guy, the fisherman as well. It just attacks him for no reason. What's it going to get from that guy? What intelligence is there?
Yeah, where did that happen? It's just because the field. So we've got this invisible spaceship in the
Yeah.
field. That's a brilliant effect where he walks up.
It's got the red
And
carpet,
so-
just so you know where
I
it
know,
is.
yeah, the red
But-
carpet makes it for me. I loved the
There's-
red carpet. I was like, of course, why wouldn't he? Do you know what? I'm going to on my ship, but I've got to make sure at the end of it, there's a red carpet for me to, like, is that part of the ship? Like, does it roll up when they
He
fly
bought
away?
it just for that.
Is it just there by chance? And he's like, this is exactly where we land. I loved the red carpet.
Is it so we can find it? Because there's no point having this invisible ship if you can't see where the entrance is. But then it gives it away, having this massive
In the middle of
carpet in the
nowhere.
middle of the thing.
I
another
always see
place.
these students drunk one night, stumbling like, hey, there's some red carpet there, and pulling it, but they can't because it's the bottom of a ship. And they're just pulling at like the floor. They're like, what is going on here? Like, yeah, the red carpet's genius.
That location is another one that I've been to, but it was just by chance that I'd been there. I was watching the story and I was like, wait, that's Grantchester, just outside of Cambridge. That's where Rupert Brooke used to live. And that's the pub I went to. That's the field I went on a walk with my mate. I put my feet in that river. What's going on here?
I wondered if that was near Cambridge
Yeah,
or not,
yeah.
so it's a little bit further
It's
out.
Grantchester. It's one of those. I think the situation geographically is like it's one of those towns that sort of gets, as Cambridge grows, it sort of gets absorbed in. It's one of those sorts of places. Yeah, I mean, the whole of the location work of Cambridge just makes it feel so alive for me.
Yeah, I agree. And it really gives it like a different feel. It really elevates the whole story in a way. Oh, can we talk about what was his name? Young because it got to
Parsons.
Y.
Chris Parsons.
Parsons.
Young
Chris
Parsons.
Sinclair.
Because it got to Y, didn't he, in the alphabet when he's going, Young Parsons. I love him, and I was really hoping he'd be a companion.
Oh,
I wondered if you were thinking of that because he goes off with the Doctor and Romana, doesn't he? Quite a lot. We'll talk about him in a second, but I just need to say I feel so sorry for Claire. She's stuck on her own for most of the story.
Like a
in that
name that
room.
no one can remember, apparently.
Yeah, she just gets forgotten for most of the story. I do feel sorry for her. But yeah, okay, so Chris Parsons, so he's working out what's going on with this book. It's a great idea as well, this book that's like defying the laws of everything and it's really
In
dangerous.
a language
It's a
you
great
can't
idea.
understand. I loved Chris. I really... Sometimes when you get people coming on that are like, what's all this? But I loved that he was scientific and like was embracing it. That was like, he was like, this changes everything. And I loved that. And I really thought he was going to like be a companion. And then as we were going through, I thought he's not going to be because this was missing and it wouldn't make sense for this person to randomly be here. And that was what I was like, oh, that's such a shame because actually I reckon if it was made, I mean, decisions got made, you know, the dynamic between the Doctor and Romana is great, but sometimes I do miss that human touch. And this is what I found recently. Like, I miss that sort of the audience member being there with them. And now they're the companions that I love the most, where the learning comes because they're just like us and they're on our journey, you know?
yeah. As they are two Time Lords, they do need a third sort of presence to give them someone who can learn in a way.
I feel a bit now that I'm like, I'm missing that. I'm missing that because there are times when Romana is as competent as a Doctor.
It's like if Liz Shaw stayed for more than one series, in a way. They are intellectual equals in that way.
Yeah, but Liz also had like the human element of like that, and whereas which one was it? Well, where we were like, the Doctor basically does sweet FA here. Romana's like owning it. She could basically be the Doctor. Which one was that?
Well, like Horns of Nimon when she's going around with the kids and stuff, she was taking a lot of that story.
And it's to the point where and then the Doctor's just dumbling around room to room and doing things, and I was like, you need that person who, and it worked in the previous Romana a little bit because she was sort of the new, I don't know, fresh out of school, but didn't have the knowledge he had. I don't know. I just feel like they need that other person to, and I genuinely was like, oh, it's such a shame because he'd been perfect for it. He really would.
That's a good point, though. What if this story was like a start or an exit of a major
Well, no,
character.
yeah.
They would have had to have finished it then.
It's officially the first. It would have been the first full story of the 80s, because the Horns of Nimon aired between the end of 1979 and the start of 1980. So this would have been the start of it would have been the perfect place to launch the show into the 80s.
Because we've got K9 as well in this. We've still got different voice K9,
I'm not used
which
to
we're not
it.
such a fan of.
Yeah.
I forgot. I thought they got John Leeson back for this one, but they hadn't. But I like how Chris and K9 got on.
Yeah, there was
that
so much-
dynamic.
There was so
that was
much
fun.
potential. Like, it's so frustrating. Oh,
The
yeah.
thing that I loved about Chris was the fact that he went to the same grammar school as my grandpa.
And also, he passes a good companion test because Romana's like, go and get the first aid kit from the TARDIS, and he just walks in there straight away and manages to find
Yeah, he takes it
down all the different corridors
Does he pass?
and back again.
Does he pass because he has travelled in the TARDIS?
Oh, that's true. But I've had this thing. Mark has a theory he has to move to another episode.
Yeah, it has to be a different story, but he has travelled. Yeah. But then that doesn't make Liz Shaw a companion, but we'll forget about that.
If only the Master of the Land of Fiction had been in another story. If only they'd been in the next
I
one.
said that he'd have been a great companion. That would have been so much fun.
I'm just trying to just please you here. Just put all the things that you're going to go, yeah.
But also, Chronotis would be a great recurring character if he was because he's a Time Lord, friend of the Doctor. I like that, a bit like Drax, sort of a completely different Drax type. It's nice that we've got that other Time Lord, because we haven't had Time Lord stuff for quite. Oh, actually, no, we have, haven't we? We've had Time Lord stuff a lot.
I mean, is it spoilery for me to say that the actor comes back, but not in that role? Is that spoilery? Sorry. Because there's in the animated portions, there are some lines for Chronotis. They are taken from one of the future stories that he's going to be in.
Okay.
Because
he died then.
He's long dead. Yeah.
But that's clever of them. That's smart.
Yeah.
Like, resourceful. Because actually, when I was listening to some people, I was like, I wonder if people weren't around, if they got like family members to come in and record or something like that. So I did wonder.
K9, the guy that does K9 version 2, he passed away ages ago. I wasn't sure if what they did with the voice of K9 in the
I think his
animation
dialogue comes mostly from the 90s version, from what I read. I've got the collection box set, and I read the little leaflet, and they said that he and also the DVD version leaflet. And they said that they used some of the 90s stuff, and I wonder if they also mined some of the other episodes as well for a bit of audio.
I'm glad that we've moved on past Cambridge, though.
I personally, if anything dragged for me at all, I mean, I enjoy the story for what it is. I think for me, the story started to lose interest once Cambridge was decentered.
Oh, really? I lost a little bit of interest, but then I think once we'd picked up on like the Doctor, like moving, it's not the Doctor, who do I mean? The Professor, and what was going on there, then I became like sort of reinvested again in that, like, who are you?
Well, we have I think there's a bit of padding with the Doctor on the bike chase and everything.
It's minor padding compared to some, though.
But not too much. But then you've got that interest of the Professor and I like the sort of heartbeat Morse code thing and all of that happening, and then he just disappears. So there's still plenty to go on. But it did need to move on, and I like how we've got the spacey element thing. And actually, with the animation, I think it seems like a lot of obviously the spaceship stuff was the stuff that wasn't filmed. So you've got all the obviously the studio stuff in the study with Claire is on film, and then it doesn't matter so much that all the spacey stuff is animation because they're completely different worlds,
and also
that sort of
I think
helps quite a
because
bit.
The spaceship can be made really extreme in a way that they wouldn't have been able to do on set. It might have been a bit one roomy. It looks amazing. Like you feel the vastness of it, and it works really well. That's where the animation can really thrive.
I think maybe my disconnect sort of comes a bit from the fact that I did watch it all in one go.
Yeah, that's a mistake.
It was a mistake. Without the episodic version, because I don't have my Blu-ray player here where I am at my parents' house at the moment, and it's in my flat in London, so I couldn't watch the episodic version. So I did feel sort of that drag. It's like, where do I stop this? Where do I go have my lunch? Well.
He got into the TARDIS and the ball, and then they flew off, and then the ball just stopped. And I think it wasn't long after that I thought I need to stop, because I was waiting for something that felt cliffhangery to like lead. So I think it was about there, and then I carried on after that.
Just a couple of notes just before we get into space. I've put Romana's toasted muffins on that electric fire. I don't know why. I just decided to make a note of that. Maybe I was hungry.
I was toasting my hot cross bun earlier. It all fits in.
It's all connected. I made a note of Professor Chronotis's line, I'm not allowed to have a TARDIS. He's played it so sneakily. He's toying with the Doctor and Romana in a way. And there was another line he had about when they're talking about hearing the voices. He said, "Oh, it's probably undergraduates talking to each other, I expect. I'm trying to have it banned."
He has some great lines. He does it so well, to a point where you feel sympathy for him as a character. Because it'd be really easy to be like, "Oh, it's you, and you're that evil thing." But you've built up such a rapport with who this character is, that when it does come out, you have a real sympathy for him of like, "Oh my gosh, well, what happened here that this lovely old man living in Cambridge in a room is giving everyone cups of tea is this evil villain sort of thing." It's done,
and you
so
feel
well.
bad when he gets ball. That's a great effect, actually. It's so simple, just this ball on your head.
Yeah. I think without the music, it might feel a bit silly, but
yeah, I think the music really. We've said it already, but that's one of the scenes where it really does carry it. And the way the ball was done, I wondered about how they'd filmed that, because it doesn't look like it's just a ball on a string, which sometimes these sorts of things can be.
Well, I think that it's half ball on string, half like green screen, because the shots that are close up, that is just someone holding it off shot, I think. But there is a shot where it's completely stuck on his head.
Yeah,
the bit where I'm like, without music, that could just be like
a balloon stuck on your head,
flailing about.
You get static and it sticks to you. Mark doesn't know because he's scared of balloons, but
So what? You're scared of birds, and Mark's scared of balloons. Is that?
I hate birds. I absolutely despise birds. And Mark,
I'm scared of dead birds. Anyway,
no, we have to. Mark, you can't say I'm scared of dead birds.
No, I'm scared of dead birds.
Did you talk about the dead bird thing? Because I remember Sarah's bird.
We talked about that. Sarah's scared of like.
Because the one that was in the house.
Bloody hate live birds. Yeah, it got in the house. It was awful. And even like in Cardiff, the seagulls are about the size of a cat. So like, I will cross the road if I see a seagull. Like, I hate them. But no, Mark shut a door on a bird and it died.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
That's what you were talking about.
No, I've just totally forgot about that. I've just remembered. I'm just reliving that trauma right now.
You resurrected that trauma.
Oh my god, completely forgotten about
that. How can you forget, Mark? It's like one of my funniest stories.
Oh my god!
It's setting the scene. Is how Mark, like, it was in lockdown, wasn't it? And Mark was leaving for work, and a bird flew in, and the cat was going crazy, and so he panicked and shut the door. And as he was shutting it, the bird was going out, and he squashed it, and it and then screamed.
No.
And I don't know why, and then you rang me saying like, "I've killed a bird," and I was just like, what? And like the whole thing's just ridiculous. Because what are the chances of like a tiny bird's head just as you're shutting? Yeah. What are the chances? But it happened to Mark.
It was just coming through as I shut the door. Anyway.
And then you buried it, didn't you? Because then I came around and you were like, "It's there," and I was like, "What's there?" And you were like, "The little bird." I went, "Oh, it won't be for long. A cat or bird or someone will pick it out." And you were traumatized. I thought that's what you were talking about. What dead birds are you talking about?
I was just talking about general dead birds. I just don't like seeing them. Just like if you see one on the floor in front of you, I wouldn't want to walk over it.
Oh, do you know what I saw
Anyway.
the other day? And I was on the phone and I screamed. A seagull eating a pigeon. Right? So it like got it in midair, come down and was like, ah. And I was like, ah. And I was on the phone to like someone, I was on the phone to my mortgage advisor. And I was like, oh, that's the most disgusting thing, screaming and like trying to run around it because like that is vile. That is, I mean, oh, it was awful. So you'd have hated that as well, Mark, but for a different reason. I was just like, the vulgarness of the seagulls. Ugh, no, not a fan.
You could easily recreate Shada by making your own sphere, though. That's quite an easy prop to make.
What, with a balloon?
Well, paper mache, maybe, I'm thinking.
But you'd have to like blow up a balloon to paper mache it
Yeah.
and then bust a balloon.
Yeah.
I always used to do paper mache on my face.
For a mask?
Yeah, I when I was like 10, I was making like really bad Doctor Who fan films. I would get like my mum or something to. I put like maybe like a swimming cap on my head, and then I'd get my mum to papier mâché my face, and then I'd just gently pry it off, and like, this is my Cyberman mask. I've spray painted silver.
It's a clever way to do it. Mark, get ideas.
And then I got like really weird sort of papier mâché stuff on my face, even though the thing was off. I'm like, oh, this would be a good Doctor Who alien.
What did we talk about? Like, who did I say I dressed up as recently, Mark? You keep track of these things.
Who would you dress up
Yeah,
as?
when we talked about, and I was like, that'd be a good costume.
The brigade leader.
Oh, I wish. No.
I don't know.
I need someone to be the brigade
recently?
leader for me to swoon over. That's what I need.
Was it one of Romana's outfits she wanted to
think
wear?
It was.
Oh no, Leela's jumper.
Oh, I love Leela's jumper.
Which is just
I love
a jumper.
Leela's jumper. No, it was this season, and I think it was someone that was just a side character, and I was like, I want to do that. I can't remember. Someone will point it out to us, like.
Not in Destiny of the Daleks. Not Creature from the Pit. No, I can't think.
I can't think either. I was like, that's a great costume.
But anyway, Shada Party, you can just make spheres. The only other thing, when Chronotis is collapsed, I made a note that Romana makes a little cushion out of books, which probably isn't very comfortable.
Surely Chronotis has
Props him
actual
up.
cushions in his study.
Well, she just grabs a load of books and props him up.
Tom is really weird in this.
Yes.
Like, especially in the audio, like the audio of the animated bits. Like when he's reading the book to Skagra, he does this weird like trying to read the code. And then when he gets brain drained, his weird sound he makes that Tom just makes anyway. If you watch some of his recording stuff for Big Finish, he just makes those sounds like that. That sound.
Yeah. He's enjoying it. I think he's having a good time.
I agree, though. There were points, like I said right at the start, I can't remember it now, but there were points in the dialogue, and I was like, that ain't dialogue. That's Tom Baker adding things in.
I don't think it's as prominent here as it has been, and I think it is at a time when nobody can say no to Tom Baker. Like, you're not gonna... He just can do whatever he wants.
And I think that's sort of the thing. Sometimes it loses the essence of the Doctor. And if you were to compare this, maybe not so much this one, because this one's so choppy, it's hard to have it. But let's go back one, the Naiman Doctor, to like when he first started. They're so different. It's a completely different Doctor. And there are elements that, okay, things do change over time, but generally the Doctor stays the Doctor. Like, it's the actor deciding how to put his stamp on the character is the interesting thing. That's why the Doctor's such an interesting part to play, because the essence of the Doctor always remains. And there's just times in this where I feel it's more Tom Baker than Doctor. And I've really noticed it this season.
There's something about Tom, late Tom, that I find is quite similar to like George Lucas when he was making the prequel Star Wars films. You just can't say no to him. It's like, no, George, that's not the right decision. No, this is my Star Wars. I'm George Lucas. I'm going to do my thing. Tom, it's
and
like,
I feel that's what's probably happening here. Like, there's people coming in, but he's like, well, I know it so well. But actually, it loses some, I don't know. And also, it's hard to tell because, I mean, is this the first season all Douglas Adams?
Scripted.
Yeah. So there's elements of like that at play, but I don't feel it's that. I feel it is Tom Baker.
and then I don't know if it's scripted, but the doctor said when Skagrad's left them and he's almost died of like the oxygen thing, when Parsons helps him up and he's like, Romana's gone, and then the doctor shouts, Skagra, he must suffer. It's like, is that a Tom thing? I don't see them writing he must suffer, but maybe Douglas Adams would write that. I don't know.
Yeah, there's certain points, particularly when he's interacting with others, and I'm like, I sort of sometimes feel, is this there, or is this just... There was one, I wish I could remember it exactly, because I never make notes. It's when they're all sat down, he's like, they get up to move and he's still sat there, and so they all sit down and he goes, right, let's go. And I was like, I reckon, because they all look so confused, like genuine confusion on their face, not like acting, like as if a bit like, this is awkward. And I think
that's a Tom Baker. That's making that up in the studio.
Making that up in the studio in the moment, and everyone just having to deal with it.
When they find the old men and he's being introduced to each of the scientists who have no brains left, and he's shaking one by the hand, he pats one on the head, and then just taps their cheeks. It's like, that's very Tom.
They're the bits where I'm like, I get it, but almost it's like of a liberty. I don't know. I'm not a huge, because it just doesn't feel like character development in the same way.
So in the spaceship stuff, then we get a monster appears. So we do have a monster in this. Maybe not the most memorable creation. What, the Krog?
Krog, I think.
What do we think of the Krogs?
No, it reminded me of the Yeti.
They were more dynamic in animation.
Oh yeah, they worked well in the animation.
But it was always like it was just like they were there for K9 to shoot at.
Yeah, he was a gun again. Yeah, that was a shame.
And we get bored of K9, although it did mean that he didn't talk as much. So I'm a fan of that.
Although my favourite K9 moment was the blast it K9 bit where they're in the prison and she goes, "Oh, blast it," and that. I like that. But no, yeah, he's just used as a gun for the rest of the story, essentially. So that, yeah, it's something for sort of K9 to sort of run around. And it adds an extra bit of threat.
I did laugh at K9 going to find the doctor because he was at critical levels, and in the process, just bringing the monsters along with him. I don't know why that. I was kind of like, he's kind of, yeah, but I'm a critical level. I don't know. I find this K9 really sarky.
And this is the bit where it starts to slow down. So the Krog sort of end of part 4 is where they're sort of looming on them. And then we've got sort of 5 and 6, which is mainly on this ship. So highlights for that, though. So you've got the Doctor, the bit where the TARDISes sort of meet up and the Doctor sort of crawl across that corridor.
Yeah. And also that's where the animation works well. Because if that had been on, I don't think they would have had the things to do it. It looked great. And yeah, I really liked that. I liked and you felt the music really helped here because you really felt the fear, the anticipation of it. Because also, they're saying stuff, and until you see it happening, you've no idea what's going on. In a very classic Doctor Who way sometimes, where they don't explain anything and then they just do it. This was like, yeah, I really liked that scene. I like that whole scene, actually. And they can use, what's her name? Claire.
Well, yeah, and then Claire gets a bit more to do in this, doesn't she? And I do like her as a character.
Yeah, I felt sorry for her. I did like her. I just preferred what's his name more.
But she's like Chris, she's sort of taking it in her stride, and I know she gets all this information and stuff, and she gets...
Maybe Chris and Chronotis and Claire get their own travels.
Yes! That is the series we need. Yes! The Chronotis travelling around with his companions Claire and Chris. Perfect.
That's what we need.
That is the series.
Get on it, Big Finish.
And actually, they could take K9 as well.
Oh, yeah, they can have K9. There was a real, and this is credit to Tom Baker, when he realizes that, like, it feels like it's all over, and it felt like a real sense of doom and a real sense of it's over. He acted that really well. And the only other time I can think of where it's felt as strong as that is when we have the Daleks. Like, whenever we have the Daleks involved, you feel the sense of, like, their power. And he acted so well that, like, he literally now has control of everything. Like, it is over. And he acted it so well that he had a real sense of fear on his face. And yeah, and the way that scene played out when they cut to Romana, who's moved, and she's like, hang on, your brain's in there. And but yeah, I thought that was it. It's the closest to the sense of doom you have with the Daleks that I felt in something.
Could we address the plan, Skagra's plan? First off, he takes the professor's mind twice?
Yes.
Surely he doesn't need to do it the second time because he's done it the first time. So surely he has it already.
Knocking him out.
But also, like, maybe one of you could explain it a bit to me a bit more, because there's some interesting like ideas about, like, self-determination, I guess, over imposition of order in the scenario, because Skagra's talking about how these atoms are doing nothing of any purpose, and it's sort of he's the world he's envisioning is sort of like, it sort of lacks creativity. And there's sort of no joy and no connection, but then surely so how does he? Is it that it's just his mind being projected into other people, or is it that he's making a copy of his mind? Because if it's like a copy, surely then it's sort of like people, like, they will have their own ideas as they learn more things, like individual people, unless they're like a hive mind.
I think it's the hive mind, but he leads it. So I feel like the ball is like his collection of all the great minds.
He collects, and then he said because he wanted not to take it, he wanted to be the.
Yeah, I think he wants to be like the top of the pyramid. He wants to be queen bee of the hive, and everyone works around him. Oh, he'd definitely be a great queen bee, wouldn't he?
Yes, he would. He's got the personality for it.
He's got the personality, he's got the charisma, he's got the charm.
I wonder if it would have been like a more satisfying conclusion if his downfall had been less from like the destroying the orb, and more like one of the other people who he's taken over. If they like sort of get there, if they are all themselves Skagra in like, so there's like multiple Skagras and they sort of start infighting. That would be more of like. I got
really confused. Actually, I agree with a little bit of this plan, because I got a bit confused when they're on the ship, and like the animated people who are all green. I don't know why they were green.
What, the prisoners come out?
They were all wearing uniforms.
Is this like a sample, or has it already happened? Like, I was trying to work out, like, is this just him? Like, okay, so we'll trial it here with these prisoner people who are all green, and then I'll move it onto the universe. Or is it already? I just couldn't work out. Like,
I think he's just trying it out with them,
and they're very easily, because it's the Doctor's mind too. And I don't know. I mean, you do need, just for it being Doctor Who, you need that battle of like the Doctor winning over the villain. But I get that. But I agree. Like, I was very confused by the overall, and actually it built up really well, but the actual execution of it wasn't wonderful. And wonder if that's because of some of the missing things, because obviously they're.
Well, I mean, there's a cool bit where K9 blasts the sphere and it breaks down and then it goes into. I can't imagine that happening in the studio.
And also, it looked great, but then I was kind of like, well, does this mean there's multiple? Like, it almost opened up more questions for me, and I feel like the idea and the plan was really solid, and I understood that he had capabilities of taking, but he didn't know how to give his knowledge to other people. I get that. That was all very clever.
But he needed salivating. I can't say it. Salivating.
Him, the professor.
That guy,
and I get all that. So that all made sense. But when it came to the actual execution of it, I was a bit like, okay. I mean, like, I don't know whether I needed to follow it because he's so Queen Bee. I was just loving him throughout and like loving what he was doing. Also, can we really quickly, can someone tell me who the voice is of the computer? I thought it was like Judi Dench at one point.
No, it's not Judi
Hang on.
Dench.
I was like, that voice is so. I said, where have I heard that voice before?
Having a look. The ship, Shirley Dixon.
EastEnders?
Is
I don't know.
in.
It feels like something like that.
She's in the Bridget Jones movies.
She's Mrs. Darcy in Bridget Jones. She's Darcy's mother in Bridget Jones. That's what I mean. Like, it's going, but like I can see it. Yeah, okay. It's a really distinct voice.
In the audio version of Shada, it's the computer's played by Hannah Gordon, who is Kirsty from the Highlanders.
Oh, well, you'd love that.
Oh,
You would love that.
So I prefer that
Of course you
version.
do. Of course
of
you
the
do.
I'm just going to say it now because we haven't had it yet. Edith.
Yay! We don't talk about Edith as much now. We need to bring back.
No,
I was
we do
thinking
not
this
need
the other
to bring it
day.
back. That
We
needs
need
to
more Edith
like
chat.
that needs to go at some point.
Oh, hang on.
No!
Hang on a second. I've just been handed some mead. I'm just going to...
Oh yeah, Edith's here at the
Thank you.
university. That's where
Yeah.
she's been.
Edith's actually a lecturer in Anglo-Saxon history or something.
Like, I love Mark's love for Edith. Mark literally is flying the Edith flag, but like she needs to get out of the catering team. And she needs to, like, she's a chef now, surely. Do you know what I mean? She's got more skills. She's been in this for a while.
She runs her own business, yeah. Anyway, oh, actually, while we're on, this is not related at all, but I was just looking at, I was on a bit of a tangent the other day, and I was just looking at people that went to my school, and I was just like, you know when you think like, what are they up to and stuff. And no, this is linked because it's someone that ended up, I think, at Cambridge,
Right.
And I was looking, and there was this kid who was a year below me in primary school, and I always wondered what was he doing? What did he? Because he was a bit annoying, and I looked up, and he's this proper professor of mathematics who's won loads of awards and is a lecturer in Oxford now. And I was just reading the stuff that he's done, and I was like, oh my gosh, like he was awarded this prize because he showed that for any given decimal digit, there are infinitely many prime numbers that do not have a digit in their decimal expansion. And then in 2020, he improved the best-known bound for square difference free sets, showing that a set A bracket thing N with no square difference has a size of... And it's all of these mathematical equations and stuff that he's like proved. And I was like, I just remember him doing paper mache in primary school, like literally, and I couldn't believe it was him.
I'm just waiting for the people from Blackburn to do way better than me in life, you know.
I just can't go. I really struggle when I go back home, more to Clitheroe than Blackburn, but like I can't deal with a night out in Clitheroe and I bump into people I know. I just can't deal with it. I'm just like, and then they were like, "Oh, you sound really posh now." I'm like, I really don't. Like, I just don't sound anything like when I'm at home. And it doesn't help that sometimes I throw out Welsh words because I'm used to doing that here.
Why does the professor even try to use his powers against Skagra? He reveals himself. Skagra didn't know.
I wondered that.
He did it. Why? You've revealed who you are.
Yeah, I wondered that. I wondered if it was just to try and like change it. I don't know. But because you only ever see, because that's the animated part, isn't it? You only ever see his eyes. I wondered if he was starting something and then Skagra was supposed to do something else. I don't know. But I agree. I thought that. I was like, why? What are you achieving here? Unless it's just to really make it super clear to the audience who he is. Like, in a very, like, simple way. But I agree. Like, we sort of worked out.
Because you're supposed to think that at the very beginning that Skagra is Sally Avon. Why can't I say it? I think because there's that talk of Sally Avon right at the beginning, obviously because of the professor later on, but you're supposed to think that is Sally Avon that's escaped, and that's maybe, aren't you? So going back to Skagra's acting, his last scene isn't the best.
No, but it's
He's
animated.
like, no, where he's like, no, it's the last scene and it's filmed. Where he's in the prison at the end and he's like, no. Or
Oh, was that on... Do you know what? I genuinely remember that as... No, you're right. It was filmed.
What I really enjoyed about the story is that all of the characters got to have their goodbye on film rather than animated as well.
yes, yeah, that would have been a shame if they hadn't, because there's a time in this story as well for that sort of comedy policeman ending with everything. That's nice that they're back. We're so lucky that they scheduled all of the Professor Study stuff to be filmed first. If it was the other way around and all we had was that spaceship,
it would be a bit tiresome in a way. I think that worked in the story's favour, in that I think that the best Skagra stuff happened in animation. I thought he was the most engaging. He was really slick when he was animated, like all his finger snaps and like the dark interiors. Like if that was filmed then it would be really harshly lit. But he was there sitting watching Doctor Who. He was watching the live action adventures of Tom Baker of like the last season, and he was just sat there like lying, and he was watching it and like clicking his fingers. And I thought that it was like his performance was really energetic, even though the actor himself was much older. And I don't know if that's just come with like experience of living that much longer life.
I've met him. I met Skagra.
Oh, have you? Go on, tell us.
I don't know. I can't remember now, really. But he signed my Shada DVD. But I did meet him. I think I was a bit scared of him because he was a bit scary. But no, he was nice. But I didn't get a photo or anything. I don't know why I wasn't that bothered at the time.
Had you just been put off by I don't know, Carol Ann Ford saying, "I don't really watch Neighbours."
No. Let's just go right to the end. Sarah, were you surprised with nowadays Tom Baker making a specially filmed appearance?
Yeah. I mean, I was a bit confused because I don't know if you guys had this, but Romana's dialogue was so quiet.
Yeah,
too
you could
quiet.
tell.
Like you knew she was far off, but literally I was like, what is that? Like, so I was like, what's going on? And then you realise actually the whole point is they've obviously just put record in another space and it's picking up on like the mics.
I think those two tend to record in different spaces.
Yeah. Yes. We've discussed that. Yeah. So it was obvious that like they've obviously recorded that and they're just playing it in another room somewhere, hoping it picks up the idea that she's in another room. And it just didn't work very well because I really struggled to hear her dialogue. But it was quite a nice surprise, and it's just quite nice. I felt like it sort of rounded off this unique story element. The story itself not unique, but the way that it's come about, it just sort of rounded off the uniqueness of it all really well.
And they tried to sort of blend it in, so they used like the same kind of cameras that they would have used in the 70s. They recreated that TARDIS console room and everything. Yeah, it's just a really nice touch.
It's a really nice touch, and like you don't see it coming, but and then it's to the camera, to his light. It just sort of rounds off what feels very special.
And it fits with this story. I don't think you could do it for any other story, but because it's this sort of Douglas Adamsy script of this sort of with Time Lords in and just these weird. I don't know. It just fits. I don't think you could just do that at the end of any Doctor Who story.
The fact that it is this one that has also had such a complex sort of history of like getting to be what it is now. It's sort of round, like I think that was your implication, that it sort of rounds off this really nice. It sort of wraps it up nicely. The 2017 version says, "We have now done it. We have made Shada. You don't have to make it again." And then they make the episodic version for the box set. But
I think if the story hadn't been as strong, and I just was like, finally, I'd have been like, but actually, because the story was strong, and it was just such a unique way of it all happening. It just had a nice sort of feel to it, and also it's the end of the season.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't have. Well, it would be.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
But for me as well, it's the end
isn't.
of the season, so it just sort of rounded off this sort of experience. I think.
So that TARDIS set that they recreated, that so it must have been 2017 that came out. Maybe it was 2018. They had it at a convention, so you could go on the set, and Lala Ward was there, and I have my photo with her at the console. Oh, I should have brought it with me. I'll have to
dig it out,
post it up. But that's the only time I met Lala Ward.
Is she another Annika
No,
Wills?
she's not. No, she's not. She's pleasant and she's nice, and she
She's not like Annika
appreciates the
Wills at all then.
fans. No, she appreciates the fans. I don't think she would put up with. I don't really know how to explain it. Maybe she can have a bit of a sort of a frostiness sometimes if she's not enjoying it, and I don't think she has to do it.
I mean, I kind of get it in the sense of it's obviously a really weird time in your life where you married a man and then got divorced not long later. And the whole of purpose of meeting this man and most of is this show. So although like your work is one thing, like it's probably a very awkward and she probably is always thinking, oh, they're going to ask me questions about that or it or him and that always just sits there as being a thing.
So do you think this story, if it was just it had all been made and it was just part of the season, do you think it would feel so special and be such a good story? Do you think it holds up on its own?
I think it does, actually. I think like the Cambridge element, like whenever I saw the film bits, I was like, I get why they've done this now. Like I get why they've gone to all this trouble, if that makes sense. Because it's a lot of trouble, it's a lot of money. But I get it. Because actually it's a really solid story. We know roughly because of the animation what things would have looked like. Chances are they wouldn't have been as vast. And it's just things like, it's so hard to compare. You can only go off what exists. Because it's not even like it was missing. It never existed. That's the difference here. It's not like when they do a missing episode and there's like, oh, well, there's pictures and it was this. It never existed. So what they have created is what it is. And I think what it is great. I really enjoyed it. More than I thought.
It's interesting because Douglas Adams himself wasn't really a big fan of it. He bashed it out in a couple of days before the director came on board. I've got a bit of a quote that he put. He said, I didn't particularly like it. I thought it was rather thin, at most a mediocre 4-parter stretched over 6 parts. So when that was cancelled, I thought, phew, because it wasn't very good. And now at least I'm spared anybody seeing it.
And I read as well, did he accidentally sign for it to be allowed to come out on video?
For the John Nathan
and then when he realised, he was like, take my name off it.
Really?
Like off the video thing. Yeah, he accidentally said it could be released.
I think he donated any proceeds to Comic Relief that would come from it as well.
Other than the very start where you've got those characters, I can't think of any real weak performances throughout it.
It's a really good, strong guest cast.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes
and that's
this
what
story
really
stand out
makes
a lot.
it.
I mean, it comes at this point. Its place is like this. It's almost a figurehead of like a history of like Doctor Who's relationship with industrial action as well. I mean, the industrial action element of it is fundamental to the existence even today of this story. Like it comes after like strikes from the Spearhead from Space became a thing entirely made up on film because of strikes. Robot had strike problems. City of Death was only as successful, really, ratings-wise, as it was because of strikes. And strikes really make this one as well. I mean, there was a quote, I think. I mean, the fact that it is this product of industrial action has contributed to, I think, our enjoyment of it now. Because I do think the animation is a strength of this story. And it adds to this complex history that the story has, where it's seen as this cursed story that's had so many sort of different incarnations. And in a way, production-wise, it is cursed. I think the curse may have been somewhat lifted now, but I mean the fact that the two people who worked on it very closely in Douglas Adams and Graham Williams, who they essentially co-wrote it over those 3 days, as Graham Williams producer and Douglas Adams as writer. They both died prematurely. I mean, it's sort of like part of this curse in a way. Like Douglas Adams died in 2001. I think he was 49. And Graham Williams was 45 when he died in a shooting accident. It's got this really complex, rather sad legacy, I think, because it's the end of the Graham Williams era.
So this is the last of this producer's time.
Yeah, it's the end of the Graham Williams era, and the production man. I don't know what John Nathan Turner's job was at the time because he worked on the production.
He's been on it for a few, and then he takes over as producer for the next season. But he's been like location, some unit person,
not unit,
on
unit.
this, not unit.
Because it starts out for Douglas Adams as quite a sentimental story. It's him revisiting his Cambridge years, and then it ends for him uncompleted, and for Graham Williams as well. It's got a dark legacy in terms of production, and it's sort of so sad that it comes out of that sort of hope of like a nostalgia of the past for Douglas Adams. But for us as viewers, we have seen the light of it.
Yeah, these things, you don't think, you're watching these stories and you're like, you have no idea all this behind the scenes stuff that's going on. Like,
but that's almost, I think some of that,
they're running out of time, money.
That's some of the beauty of all this, though. Like, that's the bits that I find interesting, where we can place things into time. And it's like when we've watched episodes and they're obviously about like joining the European Union or like, things like that. We can sit here and remember when you have the elements of life around it and what's going on in the world, it is a real timeline of history.
Is it one of your favourites of the season?
Ooh, it's up there. It's definitely up there. I mean, can I remember the season? No. That's next week's job.
Okay.
That's next week's job to start assigning names to episodes again for me.
I think it's one of the it's the strongest one of the season for me.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the pirate ship. Is that what I mean? What do I mean?
Pirate Planet. That was a little while ago.
What do I mean then? Which one did I enjoy this season?
Oh, you mean Haunts of
No.
No.
Creature
Pirate
from the
Ship.
Pit.
Which one was it?
Okay, so just quickly
this
go through
season is Destiny of the Daleks. City
That's
of
Paris,
Death.
isn't it? Oh no, wait.
No.
No, wait. Hang on. So Daleks, and they didn't talk a lot. Yeah. Then City of Death is Paris. Oh yeah. With Blob.
The Nightmare of Eden. Are you talking about the Nightmare of Eden?
Yes, I think I am.
Oh, I forgot about that one. Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Nightmare of Eden.
Yeah, that's the one with the
It's the one with and the weird German accent the professor has.
Yes, I really enjoyed it.
Yes.
I loved that one. So, yes, I think it's up there.
I love it because it's got Irongron from Time Warrior in it.
We did try and explain that in the episode, but I don't think Sarah remembers Irongron now. He's way in the past.
Yeah, the trouble is, if something sticks, it really sticks. But if it's forgotten and Mark knows it doesn't stand a chance.
If it's not Altos and Zabitha or whatever, then you've got no chance.
If they haven't got great legs in tights, it's really hard to remember.
But see, this one's going to be remembered for a long time because I'll just say the Cambridge one, and
Yeah,
you'll be like, yeah, straight away.
You just talk about Skagra's magnificent cape and hat, and you'll know.
Or the punting one,
yeah. Mark has renamed pretty much every story for me.
I just have to give it a description.
What's the one that's the professors at breakfast? Which one?
A scientist at breakfast. Yeah.
And
that's image of the family.
Like you say that, I'm like, yeah, we got it.
That's the one with Benedict Cumberbatch's mum, or one of them.
Oh, really? Oh, did you mention it at the time, Mark? And I've just forgotten.
I think I did say at the time.
that was her second Who, I think.
Oh, she's in the Faceless ones. Yeah, because I said she was in the Faceless ones, which is, I don't know, the Gatwick Airport.
Oh, yeah. With the hat, with what's the name?
Polly.
Yeah.
The hat, of course. The hat. Yes, of course. There we go. So, James, where in the sort of rankings would you put Shada in terms of, I don't know, Tom Baker stories?
Tom Baker stories. I think it's going to be in the upper percentile, or whatever the word is. I think it's, in terms of this season, I think City of Death has to take it for me personally.
Everyone loves City of Death, don't
they?
they?
I really enjoy it. I really enjoy just running around in Paris, like singing the music really loud. I have done that. I was in 2017. I went to Paris and I was just running around, just humming the City of Death. I went to the doors, the old chateau, which don't seem to be there anymore, or they weren't the last time I was there, which made me really sad. But then I think it's got to be up there with your Genesises and the I don't know, your Pyramids of Marses and those sorts of ones. I think it's around there. I think this one's on that level. Maybe if not on the top level, then the one below. If you've got 4 tiers, it's
I was going to say tier it, yeah.
If you've got 4 tiers,
as I said that, I felt COVID. I was having flashbacks to being in COVID.
Yeah, I think it's got a good reputation. This one, I think, is a fan favourite.
We'll see how it does at the Oscars.
So we've got the 80s to come now.
Who is it from Inferno? They've got to win the couple award. Those two.
With the noses.
No. Oh no,
Petra and Greg.
From.
Oh yes, I remember Petra.
So we got the Oscars coming up, and then we will do the 1970s All Stars Awards as well. So we've got a lot to decide on, a lot to remember before we head off to the 80s.
This is going to be so hard because the 60s was not 10 years.
Soldeed better win best film.
Yeah, true.
This will be so tricky. Good luck, Mark. Get thinking of all the names of these things and.
Yeah, it's fine. I will do all the admin.
Mark knows his job.
There we go. Well, I suppose we better finish before the police arrive. So, thank you very much, James, for joining us to talk about Shada. Yeah, so we will be back next then with the Oscars. We'll get deciding. And we'll also put out on Twitter some polls to help us decide for the 70s awards. I've got some polls to put out, and we'll go from there to find the ultimate winner. So look out for that. And in the meantime, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at 2watchwho. And you can support us at buymeacoffee.com/2watchwho. And we will see you very soon.
We're going to start our adventures in Chronotis' TARDIS now. We're going to go off with the professor and his crew.
Yeah. I mean, we're in it.
Yeah. Okay.
Off into the 80s.
Who wants to press the button?
Oh, you've got to hold it for ages, remember? Like,
it's a bit
real
hot.
upper body strength test, is that?
Oh, yeah. Okay, we all need to hold the lever things.
Okay. I remembered something.
Okay. Bye.
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 2 Watch Who.